We were at Lowe's last night, and there was this huge line in the store waiting to buy. It was kind of later at the end of the evening. And instead of having different lines, they had one. I've noticed that lately they're having bigger lines, like one line, we saw that at Whole Foods, same thing. Now they just have one long line, and then they have the checkers to make it streamlined, I guess, a little bit more to keep that distance thing more clearly marked. And I found myself like really interested in watching people in this new age of 6 foot. And that's interesting for me because, we all have this personal space, this imaginary personal space that we all seem to have. Some are closer, some are farther. You never really know until you butt up too close to someone and they tell you, pre 6 foot. Well, they tell you now even more. If you're closer than 6 foot, some people will turn around and say something if they feel you're too close. But it's a similar thing that we have this personal space. I remember before my awakening, I had a certain personal space, like kind of everyone did. And then as soon as I had the awakening, I had no personal space. Completely gone. I had nothing. And I would just get up like this close to people without even realizing I was that close to people. And I would hear it. You're too close. I remember training with someone and I was like, and he's like, you could see him just creeping away and I would just kind of follow him. And then he finally said, hey, this is, you're too much. There's the intensity of being so present that it becomes too much and then the space changes. But as I was, as I'm watching this last night, I'm seeing 6 foot, and then you add on top of this thing called the mask. And so now we see, pretty much just from the eyes above. And so it's kind of like this space. We don't get a chance to really even see people now. I mean, that's been kind of taken away as well at one level. And I felt this sense of this 6 foot loneliness space, or this 6 foot solitude place that we all are in, this bubble. And you could kind of sense, for me, it was like sensing some of the people, were having a difficult time with that there was a kind of a loneliness about them that kind of came across that 6 foot barrier. Before we could, be pretty close to each other. And now we have this very specific distance. And then we're inside this cocoon also. That adds another level of solitude. And it could be loneliness also. For some, it's loneliness. For others, it could be solitude. It could be a place of just kind of being with themselves out in the public place. But for me, it felt more like this kind of a loneliness place, that you're kind of stuck in this space and you don't want to get too involved with anyone because it's kind of this fear that they may have something that you don't want. And specifically COVID. And so we want to say hi, and then we don't know how much the other person's going to want to hear that hi for fear. It's really interesting, the idea of solitude. I mean, when we meditate, it's kind of a solitude practice. The Zen center, even though there's a lot of people around in the Zen center, it's still a very solitude. You're looking at the wall, you and the wall, or you're looking straight ahead. It's kind of a solitude place, but you've chosen that. That's something that we choose, that kind of solitude, trying to find ourselves in that place. I just read this story of this guy who was a journalist, an Italian journalist, and he pretty famous in Italy years ago, and he was covering Asia, and he just kind of got burnt out, and he decided to sit at this very quiet place with himself and his dog. And he came out of it saying that, which I kind of wrote down, he said, at last, I had time to have time. And I love that, right? Like he kind of became a cult figure in Italy after that, because they saw this guy as like this kind of slightly awakened being. But the idea I have time to have time is something that happens through solitude. And it's really a beautiful way of going in to feel that depth of ourselves. We get splintered out so often by the pace of life. And then we sit, hoping to bring ourselves back as close to one as possible. And it's contrasted to when we're being forced to solitude, this place. And it's at some level uncomfortable to watch, because for me, because I can feel everyone's like, oh, let's get done with this thing and let's get back to hanging out together with each other. And I'm kind of done with this solitary confinement, so to speak. Even out in public, it has that sense of it about it. For me, it's a combination of seeing that and feeling that in people, at the same time feeling the intense connection that we're all playing with at the same time. But it's easy not to see that. It's easy not to see this interconnectedness that now the whole world is connected to. And we forget about that often during our regular daily pursuits, that connection. So solitude to me is like finding that, is kind of deepening that connection, so that the connection is there solid in us, and that we ultimately, it doesn't kind of revert into loneliness. Because when it goes from solitude into loneliness, that's when it becomes problematic for people, because now it's this different state of being when you're lonely. And this is opening up, either it feels like people are kind of going into the solitude place to find themselves, or they're getting more lonely. I mean, I hear, especially the older population, when they have grandkids to see and they can't see them, and you kind of hear that suffering, right? That suffering and missing a vital part of my life right now. And so it's, it hits different levels. But even the younger people are having the same issue. People in their 30s that we know through our Toastmasters Club has that same kind of thing. They want to get together, but they also know that it becomes a problem. And so there's this very kind of isolated experience right now that we're going through. And the mask, closing ourselves up out in public, that 6-foot space it's almost like we're on our own little island. Stay here in my 6-foot little circle, or whatever they have, and try not to get away from that place. So it's really interesting for me to experience this time in our existence, to feel this depth of solitude and feel the connection that people are having with their own loneliness, and to somehow reach out to people who are going through this. I mean, this Zoom is really a cool thing to be able to at least connect this way. If we didn't have this, then we would not, if this wasn't here, we would be in our own solitude trying to meditate and find ourselves. But there's something about connecting with each other and feeling that oneness that we all share with each other that kind of opens up the place, so that when we do go into this solitude place, we're trying to go into this solitude place to find who we are, so that we go back out into the world and bring that part of us out into the world, versus the one that's kind of scattershot, that is so overwhelmed by all of this that it wants to go in and kind of hide from it all. That's not solitude. That kind of goes from solitude into a loneliness place when you go that route. If you're going into solitude to find this deeper part of us, of me, of you, then it becomes a powerful moment. Even standing there with a mask on, can be a powerful moment, because it has so much depth to this connection again of who I am with myself in amongst everyone else, and we're going through the same experience. That is really so unique in modern time. Seriously. It's really a beautiful opportunity. I have these experiences. For me, it's like I'll feel something, I'll be in this moment, and then in an instant, I'll have like this electrical charge in me, just hits me, like lights me up. Just it almost like taking a snapshot of this moment, like take a snapshot of what's going on and feeling it and seeing the beautifulness of it all too, and the connectiveness to it all. And I'm seeing this and feeling that beautiful connection. And so there it looks like it's I'm with people, but I'm also having an experience in myself. You could say I'm a solitude in the moment, but I'm with others. So it's that beautiful combination of being connected to everyone and feeling it in yourself, not separate of anybody else, but connected to everyone else. So the mask and the 6-foot distancing is really an opportunity to feel that solitude place, because you're all by yourself in this little bubble, and to experience that in yourself, and then to experience the others around and feeling what everyone else is going through. Then you're expanding yourself out to a deeper level, and you'll feel like this guy says, the time starts to get, it changes when you're not so into yourself. Solitude is, for me, solitude is something to bring myself back to one, so that I can come back out into the world again as one. It's not to hide. It's not to hide behind the mask, or it's not to hide. It's to go in deeply to find deep truth in yourself, and then take that and come out and share it. Don't hide it. Share it. We're here to share who we are. And it's a little more challenging when we have a little mask and we can't see ourselves. We can't share ourselves as much. It feels like we're kind of limited by how much we can share at one level. So so there's other places to share that, the emotional, that connection, that feeling. You don't have the face to express as much. You just have so you have to express in different ways. It's forcing us to express ourselves in different ways out in public, and feeling that connection that everyone is going through, and feel that with each other. Then you'll have this immense reverence for humanity and for all of us, and for myself. Like that reverence just kind of hits here, but it resonates through the self, and it's just kind of back and forth. It just keeps hitting out here and keeps hitting me. When I send it back out, it comes back into me with the same intensity, same force. So it's just a magnificent time to exist and to allow for what's going on, to this place of being kind of with ourselves more often, to be in this solitude place, to get ourselves into finding this depth of who we are, and then not hiding it and bringing it back out. Even in 6-foot distances, impacting people is really beautiful. That's what we're here for. We're here to impact everybody. We're here to impact the closest people to us and impact the world at large. And so this place of solitude, whether it's in a line, connecting to people, or just feeling in yourself, this place of kind of oneness that we're all here to really connect to. And that's why we meditate and feel this place together. Sharing this wonderful moment with each other is a joy for me. And I love it. I can just feel it just rips through me. All of this with all of you. And I go in and you come in, and it's a beautiful dance with each other. So I want to thank you for being here again and for just being open and sharing yourselves with each other here. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Presence is, it's a feel that is like, and it doesn't matter whether, I'm here and you're there and we're on this electronic thing and it's all this stuff that seems like it's all discombobulated and different time zones and different spaces and all this stuff. But that's the illusion. He says, at last, I had time to have time, which is fantastic. It's a little bit like what Shelley, when she came back from her India trip, and she said, the quieter my mind got, the more time I had, the more things I could do. Right? Right, Shelley? That's the quieter my mind got, the more I could do. I mean, like there was just more space there. Right? Like time isn't weird. It's a weird thing. And when you're caught in, the thing is like, because this separation, the universe, this world is so fast and we're getting pushed by so many different ways now that it's very difficult to stay centered as the world's pushing on you. You're going different places. It's really challenging to do that. I mean, we try to meditate to kind of hold ourselves there, like hold on tight, because I'm going to be going out one step outside and I'm going to be pushed out. And it's going to drag me this way and drag me this way and drag me this way. And then I eventually come back, where I can kind of bring myself back. That's kind of the solitude part of it. Like trying, but if you can like keep hold that, the idea is that you hold this place and you just don't move and let the world come to you, right? Let all this stuff come to you. Once you start realizing it's coming to you, then there's no need to go, out. And you're noticing that now, right? Because you're not chasing as much now. And so it's centering yourself and it becomes more natural here. We start to break ourselves up and we feel like we need to kind of break our practice up and try to get time to do it, right? To get back into that place. But as you get closer, like what Sharon is saying, you kind of get closer to this place and you stop moving. The universe, the world just starts coming back towards you. So there's nowhere, you don't need to go out into a bunch of different pieces. You're whole. And then this whole place is coming at you. It's all coming into us. It's not coming out towards, it's coming into us. And once you start realizing that experience, it becomes easier and easier to exist in that in every moment. It feels like there's nothing to do. It is ultimately letting go. And there's a time though, sometimes when the forces of the world are trying to pull you apart and you've got to just like, I'm not going to move. I'm going to stay right here. And sometimes there's a force involved. I mean, that's a lot of awakening is because of this intense force that all of a sudden just stays here. And then it's so strong that it just, anything comes into it, just kind of makes it crumble. All this, the world just kind of crumbles away. And then it releases itself and it opens itself into this very beautiful place. But sometimes force is needed here, especially when you want to hold this position and feel the depth of it and not let it go. And then the world's going to kind of pull it apart from you. And sometimes there is a holding on here and just kind of keeping that space so that you're just grounding yourself deeper into the earth, right? You're just grounding that deeper, that rod into the universe, so to speak. And sometimes there's the Zen masters, and they have a lot of force behind them. I'm telling you, they look at you and like you just cut you in two with their look. So there's an intensity is involved with that as well, as far as this opening yourself up into a much deeper, wider space, so that you're still rooted in this physical space, but you're opening it up and becoming more dynamic and being able to deal with all the forces as well as all the softnesses and all the love is, but love is also force too. There's power in that as well as this opening up and becoming connected with everything. I love that analogy. I got to use that analogy. That is so true. That's right. See, there is part of you just, and then and then what happens? The universe stops trying to pull you out because it can't anymore. And then it's like a release because it's no longer that quote unquote force is no longer needed because there's nothing there to attack you. That's kind of like the Buddha and Mara, right? Buddha sits on the tree, kind of has his awakening, but now he's going to be tested. Like you get this place, you're going to trust me, you're going to be tested over and over again until you are like this and you don't move under that tree, and they try everything possible at you, and you're just like, you're like, like the Matrix guy, just throwing them away side to side. And hang on a second. And so it has that kind of quality to it, that kind of intensity and clarity. And clarity, as we know, people who are clear sometimes can be real asses there, but they have a very intense space about them. And this awakening space has some of that quality, and you just stay there. But once it gets completely rooted in you, then it's supple and soft and powerful, and it's just so many different things. But in the beginning, you're going to be challenged. We're challenged all the time as soon as we feel like we're getting somewhere spiritually or in this place, and then the universe is going to like throw something at you, hit you hard, and it's going to see how far you can take it. Can you take this kind of force? Someone dies close to you, or someone has this, or something happens to you, you lose this, get this. It'll just keep coming until you just stay there and become shadow-like, so that you're just no matter what kind of force is pushing you the other direction, you're not moving. I don't care what you do. I'm gonna stay right here. So that's exactly the quality of this place. When you're getting closer to it, you'll just feel like you're gonna ground yourself deeper into it, and you're just smashing things that are not that away from you. The idea here, hopefully, is that people are taking advantage of this solitude time and maybe going in more than normal. And just the idea of going in a little bit more than what anyone has done in the past is a good thing, because it allows for them to kind of see something they may not have been seen before, because it's so easy to get caught in your own inner ideology, and it's hard to break from that place. But when you kind of have this solitude, when you kind of start to feel that solitude, because solitude isn't really promoted very well, certainly in the United States, it's not promoted that well, and it doesn't, it's like we're super hyper connected, so to speak, connected, but not really connected. Like we're connected at one level, but we're just so not connected at another level. And so the solitude is that place where all of a sudden, wow, I can see things I didn't see before. And the hope is that this allows for more and more people to kind of experience that for the first time, because there's many people don't really know what that is, to really go inside, even though it's kind of a forced thing here. Maybe it shifts into it. We're deciding to go into solitude when we do this. When you sit and meditate, we're deciding to do that because we know that when we get closer, it opens us up even more. And there's a lot of people who've not done this. And this is kind of like a time that if you do that, then all the politics and all this other stuff start to kind of doesn't have the same grippiness on us as it would if we don't have that kind of space. And then this loneliness causes its own issue too, where you feel lonely, then you latch onto a group, and then that group is now your thing, and then anyone else that doesn't connect with that group is kind of the enemy. So deep solitude, as we know, is anything but separation. It's connectivity, it's connection, it's deepening connection, and it starts to remove all of these different places that we put ourselves into this one space. And once we get closer, it's just consciousness getting closer in humanity to that point where we don't get caught in all this stuff that we snap off into. And most of that is we're kind of lonely in that space. So we attach ourselves to other things, and we feel not lonely with this group of people. But then we go against everything that's not this group of people. So that part becomes It can be something that pulls everything apart, which was we've seen many, many times. But this is kind of, one thing. And I just sense that there is definitely things that are deepening each other. And certainly people like us who are even more into the solitude place and to maybe even love this time because it's allowing us to get there more often because we have more time to do this. But just sending it back out into others so that they can feel that what you're experiencing. Then you have impact. That's the impact that we're trying to bring this here out there. So more and more people who are not doing this or not feeling that kind of, who are feeling kind of lonely, you kind of bring them into that through this channel of open space and connection. Great. Well, thank you so much for being here again, guys. I love you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic day. It's gorgeous. We're so blessed to be alive together. Thank you.